Welcome to Policy on Demand from the Global Financial Services Tax Leadership Meetings in Rome. I'm Chris Desmond. Transfer pricing has been one of the hot topics here at the conference, and joining me today are two of our leaders from our transfer pricing team, Aoife Harrison from our practice out of Ireland, and Frank Douglas from our New York office transfer pricing team. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Chris.
So, what are the hot topics? So financial services, transfer pricing, a lot of hot topics going on right now. From an EU perspective, Aoife, what are you seeing?
So I suppose the theme of the conference is a lot around change, value in motion, so how there's a lot of macro changes affecting us. And from a transfer pricing perspective, we're spending a lot of time talking about the value chain. So within Europe, no different to really all over the world, everyone's spending a lot of time investing in technologies, new ways of working. And so the businesses themselves are changing their value chain. And within that, it's also looking at how we've looked at transfer pricing in the past, whether that's fit for purpose and whether we need to start changing where we perceive the value to be within the company's value chain, and maybe look at doing the transfer pricing in a slightly different manner.
Now, that's the EU perspective. Frank, from a U.S. perspective, a lot of changes going on also with tax reform, tariffs, and transfer pricing. How are you approaching things?
They are sure interesting times, Chris. And I think what we're seeing from a U.S. perspective, not so different from what we're seeing from an EU and global perspective. What we're drilling down on quite a bit is, given the changes in the value chain that Aoife mentioned, what are the downstream impacts? And in my mind, that's controversy. We all know what's happening with the IRS, with the cuts, so it remains to be seen how this will play out in the future. But what I predict is a lot of inquiries, a lot of questions on where value is created, who's creating that value, and how do we allocate the income associated with that value.
That's perfect. And so companies come here and they're at the conference and they're looking for something to take back. They're looking for some best practices, some information. Aoife, what are you presenting? What are you talking about with companies?
I think simply put, never go it alone. So it's a case of tax needs to be in the room for these conversations, needs to be looking to the wider stakeholders, thinking commercially. So where we might never really thought about tariffs in the world of FS, we now are, because it's having downstream impacts in terms of, how insurance companies are looking at their claims, looking at banks and who they're underwriting to and the quality of those loans. So suddenly you now have to have a wider knowledge, talk to more people, and there's just so much going on that you need to know what the business is doing commercially, so then you can make the transfer pricing model fit that.
That's some really good advice. Frank, what are you giving folks?
Yeah, I was going to, just continuing on that theme, is leading with your front foot from a tax perspective, a transfer pricing perspective. Often what I've seen with my clients is change in business model, then they call it the tax person, and 6 months later they need to figure out the transfer pricing model to fit their business model. What we're recommending and what we're seeing more of is being at the front end of those conversations, being at the table with your commercial folks, with tariff folks, if that's what the issue is, but generating this holistic approach. That way, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to controversy, you'll be aligned with the business model, and you'll have thought about it and not trying to play catch up, have your documentation ready, have your story set, and therefore, when the inevitable comes, you'll be prepared.
Aoife, Frank, thank you very much. We wanted to thank you for watching Policy on Demand.